members of the Legislative Assembly and the Legislative Council gathered here, other high dignitaries, and those of you who represent the panchayats themselves in this Samavesha. Over the last 25 years that I have been associated with the Panchayati Raj movement, I have attended many Samaveshas like this. But I have never attended a Samavesh where there are not only large numbers, but also audiences that listen with great interest to the proceedings from the platform, and then group discussions which are meaningful and pointed, resulting in recommendations that are practical and go to the root of the problem. I want to congratulate all of you on a most constructive Samavesha. Now that you have come to your conclusions, all of which I heartily endorse, I am at a bit of a loss as to what to say to you that you have not already put into these resolutions. So let me try to wrap up your recommendations in a larger packet with some larger issues. In this context, I would like to stress that Grama Swaraj is only possible with a very, very strong Gram Sabha. Therefore, since Karnataka was the pioneer of Panchayati Raj under Ramakrishna Hegde, may I make a special plea to Minister Jagdish Shettar that Karnataka should take the initiative in passing a Grama Sabha Act that will specify what are the powers of the Grama Sabha, what are its duties, how will other authorities, starting with the Grama Panchayat, take note of recommendations of the Grama Sabha and see to it that the Grama Sabha, much more than the Grama Panchayat, becomes the source of all power in Panchayati Raj. And to prepare this Grama Sabha legislation, I would draw the attention of the Honorable Minister to the Panchayats. It's called the Provisions of the Panchayats, Extension to Scheduled Areas Act 1996, passed by the Parliament of India. The Provisions of the Panchayats, Extension to Scheduled Areas Act 1996, generally called PESA, P-E-S-A. This act is so important that I would request the authors of these resolutions to please amend paragraph 1, the very first resolution, to say not 3 acts, but 4 acts, the 4th act being PESA. That should be included in point number 1. And I'll explain to you in a minute why. In PESA, it is provided that the Grama Sabha has 3 powers that normal panchayats do not have, or what is being taken away from them. Number 1, all identification of beneficiaries shall be done. That's what the Act says. All identification of beneficiaries shall be done only by the Gram Sabha and in the Gram Sabha and by nobody else. Second, the PESA Act says that all plans, projects and programs proposed by the panchayats shall be approved by the Grama Sabha before you proceed to implementation. Third, it says that no bureaucrat is allowed to send the utilization certificate without the approval of the Grama Sabha. Now we all know that the biggest source of corruption in Panchayati Raj is lower officials certifying that a bridge has been built, or a bus stand has been built, or a road has been laid, where there is no bus stand, no bridge, no road, collecting that money, putting it into their pockets and saying this is the utilization certificate. If the Grama Sabha has to authorize the issue of the utilization certificate, then they will tell you before any CAG or AGCR can tell you whether the bridge has been built, whether the road has been laid, whether the bus stand exists. And therefore the power to authorize the utilization certificate will be the single most powerful instrument in the hands of the Grama Sabha to prevent corruption, either on the part of officials or on the part of the panchayat members in Panchayati Raj. There are many other provisions in PESA which relate to scheduled tribes and their scheduled areas, which should be included in paragraph 1. But these three provisions regarding beneficiaries, regarding the approval of plans, projects and programs of the panchayats, and regarding the authorization of utilization certificates can be made the basis for the statutory powers of all the Gram Sabhas, whether they are for tribals or not. For everybody, this is the way to go forward. And because I am unemployed and because my party does not particularly like me, I am willing to offer my services gratis to Mr. Shetty to help to draft the Karnataka Grama Sabha Act if he would like me to do so. However, the Grama Sabha, there is no point in empowering the Grama Sabha if you don't empower the panchayats. Nowadays what happens is that in the Grama Sabha, whatever question is asked of the elected panchayat members, they say, what can we do? All the money is in the hands of the officials. All the authority is in the hands of the officials. The officials receive their instructions from Bengaluru. So we can do nothing about it. And that is why the Grama Sabha meetings don't take place, because there is nothing that can be done by the Grama Sabha. Now therefore, to have a strong Grama Sabha, you first need a very strong Grama Panchayat. And I would like to now address myself as to how to make a Grama Panchayat so strong that it really becomes responsible to the Grama Sabha. In this connection, I would like to recall certain remarks made by Shri P.G.R. Scindia, which I think are relevant to the question of strengthening the Grama Panchayat. Shri Scindia drew attention to the battles that take place between the Zilla Parishad and the Taluka Panchayat, and between the Taluka Panchayat and the Grama Panchayat, and among members of these organizations as to who is to do what. That is a major source of tension inside the Panchayati Raj system. And Shri P.G.R. Scindia himself almost gave the answer to this problem, but after having mentioned the word activity mapping, he did not explain it further. And since activity mapping is the solution to this problem of internal disputes, I seek your permission, sir, to be able to explain that a little further. Nobody knows, even 25 years after Abdul Nazir Saab, as to what are the tasks of the Gram Panchayat, what are the different tasks of the Taluka Panchayat, and what are the still different tasks of the Zilla Panchayat. Now, to resolve these problems, you have to clearly state what is the activity within a given function that will be undertaken at each of these three levels, and I will give you an example which will show you how this can be done. My example is this. In our country, we have 5 types of roads. There is the national highway, there is the state highway, Then there is the major district road. Fourth is the other district road. And the fifth is the village road. Now, obviously, the national highway will have to be built and maintained by the national government. And the state highway must be built and maintained by the state government. But when it comes to the major district roads, the other district roads and the village roads, we come to Panchayat Raj. We should give the full responsibility for major district roads to the district panchayat. The full responsibility for other district roads to the taluka panchayats. And the full responsibility for the village roads to the Grama panchayat. But they will not be able to do their job unless, along with giving them the authority to do this, you also give them the finances to do this. You may need a superintending engineer for the district roads. So the superintending engineer should be taken out of the line department and put under the disciplinary control of the district panchayat. For the other district roads, you may need an executive engineer. You take him out of the line department and put him under the disciplinary control of the taluka panchayat. And then for the village roads, you may need a junior engineer. You take the junior engineer out of the line department and put him under the disciplinary charge of the village panchayat. This is called the devolution of functionaries. So where you have talked about the 3 Fs, it has to be done in an activity map of the kind that Mr. Sindhia mentioned. There should be functions divided among the 3 tiers. There should then be finances divided accordingly among the 3 tiers. And then the functionaries must be divided accordingly among the 3 tiers. It's only when all 3 tiers have functions, finances and functionaries that we will get genuine Panchayati Raj. Moreover, if this is the division of work and of finances and of officials, only then will the Gram Panchayat be so strong as to become responsible to the Gram Sabha. Then the Panchayat members will have to answer. But for the Panchayat members to answer, it is also necessary that decisions be taken by the Panchayat as a whole, by all the members of the Panchayat and not only the President of the Panchayat. Now this is what the state government can do to ensure very strong Panchayat Raj here in Karnataka. What can the centre do? Because the centre is the one that caused all this trouble. The 73rd amendment is an amendment of the central parliament. It is not of the state parliament. I believe that the situation faced by the country today, in the absence of strong Panchayat Raj directions from the centre, is a very, very dangerous one. We have Naxalism in 1/3 of the districts of India, and the middle classes are also very upset, as can be seen in the support they are giving to the Anna Hazare movement. This is therefore the time when the central government must take up its responsibility for ensuring that there is effective Panchayat Raj in the country, and I have the following suggestions to make in this regard. At the moment, the government of India has more than 100 centrally sponsored schemes relating to the 29 subjects in the 11th schedule of the Constitution, to which they are spending approximately 1.5 lakh crore rupees a year. Let me repeat this. for the 29 subjects listed in the 11th schedule of the Constitution, which are supposed to be subjects for the Panchayat Raj institutions, the Government of India has more than 100 centrally sponsored schemes for which the central budget outlay this year is more than 1.5 lakh crore rupees. These 1.5 lakh crore rupees are meant for villagers living in the village panchayats. It's not meant for anybody else. But instead of sending 1.5 lakh crore rupees to the panchayats for them to spend on these 29 subjects, the Government of India's ministries set up separate delivery mechanisms for each scheme. So you will have an Indira Awas Yojana run by the Ministry of Rural Development, Department of Rural Development. And then you have a total sanitation campaign run by the same ministry but by the Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation. The result is that for 30 years now, we have been providing Indira Awas Yojanas without toilets. And we know that if you do outside defecation, it results in disease, and that nothing is more important for removing people from above the poverty line to below the poverty line than an illness in the family. Now, isn't it stupid that when Mr. Scindia and I, or Mr. Shetty and I, will never live in a house that does not have a toilet, we think scheduled caste people can have a house, but they have to separately get a toilet under a separate scheme. It is this kind of stupidity that is repeated in almost all our centrally sponsored schemes, and therefore we have to change the system by which monies for the centrally sponsored schemes are delivered to the people. And the same mistakes that are made at the center are repeated at the state. So all the center sector schemes and all the state sector schemes, if you put them together, there are about 200 or 300 in this country. And there are 300 schemes being delivered by 300 different sets of people, when by sending the money to the panchayats and giving them FFF, you will be able to have one agency handle the money, implement it, and the benefits will go to the people. Rajiv Gandhi said that 85 paise in the rupee is going into administrative expenses. Only 15 paise is reaching the people. But if we send all the money to the panchayats, then maybe 10 or 15 paise will go in corruption and inefficiency. But 75 paise will reach the people. And so automatically we can increase the welfare of the people by 5 times without increasing expenditure by 1 rupee. This is the good sense that is not dawning on the Planning Commission in Delhi, any of the ministries in Delhi, and therefore not on the state governments. If we just correct this system of delivery, we will be able to vastly increase the welfare of the people. Therefore, I would like to conclude this part of my speech by making a request to the Honorable Minister, Shri Jagdish Shetty. I think Karnataka should take the lead in demanding, along with other ministers of Panchayat Raj of other states, that since the whole story of Panchayat Raj began with the Balwantrai Mehta study group of 1957, and then received a big push during the Janata Dal government of 1977-78, when the Ashoka Mehta committee set up a report. That is to say, there was a gap of 21 years between the Balwantrai Mehta report and the Ashok Mehta report. But after the Ashok Mehta report, it is now 33 years that we have not reviewed how to do this. So So would Mr. Shetty and his colleagues please demand from the central government that a third committee should be established on the lines of the Balwant Rai Mehta Committee and the Ashok Mehta Committee to see how on the basis of the last approximately 20 years of Panchayat Raj under the Constitution, we can make improvements to ensure that both the letter and the spirit of the Constitution amendments is actually achieved. That is my very specific request to Sri Shetty and his colleagues in the different state governments of India. I have already spoken for far too long, but there are two small points I would like to make before I conclude. One is in respect of the Patana Panchayats. Now the Patana Panchayats are being destroyed because the Land Acquisition Act is dated 1894. It is a colonial act. In the Parliament's Standing Committee on Rural Development, of which I am a member, we are examining the land acquisition bill that has been prepared by Minister Jairam Ramesh. We find lots of lacuna in that, and we are trying to correct it. But now we are beginning the process of state governments meeting us to tell us what their views are. And on the 15th of December, we will be meeting the government of Uttar Pradesh. My request to Sri Jagdish Shetty is that he should insist with the chairman of our committee that the government of Karnataka be called to deal with this issue of the Patana Panchayats, because especially in your state, this great economic progress you're making is resulting in the destruction of villages on the edges of your big city, particularly Bengaluru, but also Mysore and several other places. So if you came before us and told us what should be done with the land acquisition bill to solve these problems of the Patana Panchayats, then I assure you that even though you and I are in not the same party, we'll still work to see that there is justice given to the Patana Panchayats. My very last point is with regard to political will. Yesterday I said this in the group. Today I want to say this before all of you. You are 1 lakh members of the Gram Panchayats, the Taluka Panchayats and the District Panchayats. Mr. Shetty and his colleagues are only 250, is it? 220. They are only 220. You are 100,000. There is nothing that these people can do against your will. If all 100,000 of you get together and say, this is our demand, if you don't give in to our demand, we will not elect your MLAs, we will not elect your MPs. Government will go out of your hands. So please remember, you are many, they are few. Democracy is a game of numbers. If you unite into one single body, and when there is one statement made by your state Panchayat Parishad, it is representing the views of 100,000 people, then there is no way in which MLAs and MLCs can spoil your lives. You can spoil their lives, but they can't spoil your lives. But if 100,000 of you remain only one here, one there, nothing is going to happen. So please come together, perhaps under the leadership of Nandana, but please come together and in one voice ask for what you want, so that instead of the district panchayat president asking the MLA, please make me the district panchayat president, the MLA comes to you and says, please make me the MLA. That is when we'll have true Panchayati Raj. Thank you. Jai Hind. Jai Karnataka.